Hi, welcome everyone. It is Monday and we are on the docks. We are here to inspire, inform, and educate you about your health and wellness. Today is a very good day. It is Monday, but it's also spring break. I've got the kids off, so it's not as hectic, but they can be very interesting at the home. I am Dr. Keisha Davis. Please check me on Instagram at KDMD_health and on Facebook at Dance Health Fitness LLC. You can check out anything pathology related about your health and keeping in shape all the time. And I have a guest today.
Yes.
Hi, Dr. Eboni Hollier.
Yes.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Why don't you tell a little bit about your background, yourself?
Okay, perfect. Well, my name is Dr. Eboni. I am a board-certified developmental and behavioral pediatrician. And really what that means is I help take care of kids whose parents have concerns about their development and or their behavior. And I've done that for a little over a decade, and it is just truly my passion to support kids and support their parents.
Awesome. Awesome. So the important thing about it, and actually is part of the topic for today, is there's different elements, right? People don't understand, okay, you're a physician, but there's different ways that you can do your practice as a physician. Mm-hmm. And for you, concierge medicine is kind of a little framework of how you hold it. So
yes.
The definition, what is concierge medicine?
Okay.
Can you put it in your own terms?
Okay, well for me, what that means is you mentioned that there's different ways to do it, and that's for sure. I was in a hospital setting for about 8 years, and I decided to just branch out and do my own thing. And so what concierge medicine is really a different type of relationship between patients and physicians, rather than, the patient being a part of a clinic system or a hospital system. Is really a more direct patient with doctor-patient relationship.
Okay.
And the way it looks for me is that you don't have the barriers of insurance and things like that. Is really more self-pay, and that way you can really have a greater access to me. You can access me more easily. You can have more one-on-one time with me, less of the red tape to cut through, a more direct path to your health.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I saw. I was looking up to make sure I had like a perfect definition of what concierge medicine is. And basically, they pay a set fee or a fee, kind of like a retainer, right? And then they have their services. But they're not bound by a certain amount of time in the office, right? There's not I'm sorry, I got to see the next patient,
right?
Type of thing. And if there's something that they need off the regular 8 to 5 hours, they're able to still contact and get a hold of you.
Yes. Yeah.
So I can't complain about that.
You can't really complain about that.
But to get to the nitty gritty of it, what really prompted you, because you did start, right, in a medical center setting, what kind of made you say, okay, I want to leave this? Because I'm sure there's a lot of doctors that are going to be starting out, and the medical center is a good place to start out, start out your career. But at what point did you realize that you were going to branch out and do your own thing?
Well, I decided that about 2 years ago. And 2 years ago was when I just really wanted to focus. I wanted to make a shift in the way I took care of patients. I really felt like in the setting I was in, not that I didn't provide good care, I just wasn't able to provide it at the level of specificity and a really true tailored fit to what the patients needed due to time constraints and that kind of thing. And so I just decided to just branch out and just do things my way, the way I wanted to do them, and it's been a good result. I feel like the families that I'm helping are really happy with the level of care that they are receiving.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So do you have you have a clinic that you have set up, or are you doing it more?
Yeah, I don't have a clinic set up. I go to parents' homes, and I mostly see young kids, and so honestly,
that's good. So that's another thing I wanted to bring up was the home visits.
Yeah.
So the concierge medicine, not all of it actually is home-based, right? Some
Not
is
all
clinic.
of it. Some of it's clinic-based.
But the amazing thing is that since you're able to have the time, how would it be that you could be sitting on the couch, at home, especially with kids that have the issues that they have, they're probably don't need to be, want to have a more one-on-one setting,
Yeah.
and you can come to the house and do your doctor visit, like
Yeah.
back in the day.
The parents absolutely love it, because the things that parents seek me out for is when kids, for example, have excessive tantrums, or if the parents are worried they have autism. The parents really feel like being in their own comfortable space with their own toys. They can go to their pantry and get a snack and come back. It's just really more comfortable, and I think you're more likely to actually see the child's true behavior as opposed to just being afraid they're going to get a shot, or
that's true. You're seeing them in their own setting to evaluate them
on their turf, not my turf.
That's true.
Yeah, so it works out.
That's good. So you also see newborns, or
I do.
And that would be great because you don't have to get out of the house.
Yes, and I'll tell you how I came up with that bright idea.
That's like wonderful idea.
Yes, when my son was born, we got discharged from the hospital at 11. Well, probably 10 o'clock. We made it home around 11. We had to see his pediatrician the next morning at 8 a.m. I felt like the baby didn't sleep at all. I'd had a C-section. I didn't want to get out of the bed. It was cold. Then we get to the pediatrician's office. It's the peak of flu season. Everybody's in their coffin, and there's not a separate waiting area. And we sat there for like an hour, and I was so afraid with my newborn baby. I just thought if there was someone who could come to my house to do this, I would do it. And so that's where that idea came from.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. I'm sure you're getting a lot of calls for that too.
Getting some, and we just need to get the word out there. I think people would be interested in it if they knew that it existed, as an option.
Yeah, I definitely would. I would.
Yeah.
So what do you think actually the benefits, though, of concierge medicine in general are for the patient and for the physician?
Okay. Well, I think the flexibility is good for both patients and physicians. From a physician standpoint, it allows you to, schedule patients when you want to see them, and still have flexibility on the other hand to reach out when people need you for phone calls, text messages, and things like that. So the increased flexibility, so the patients can reach you, and then you're able to take care of your family, your needs. I mean, doctors are people too. Sometimes we forget that, but doctors are people too. And so I think it works out for everyone involved.
Right, that's true. And then has your quality of life changed since you've opened your practice?
It has improved significantly. One other thing that changed since I left the hospital is I became a mother, so it allows me to spend time with my child. It allows me to really see him grow and meet his milestones and things like that. And then also I'm able to have a closer relationship with the families that I care for.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so it's really worked out quite well.
Then the drawbacks. What I was reading that some say, okay, so you do have to understand that this is not covered by insurance, right?
Correct.
So can a drawback be for some patients to say, okay, I'm going to be spending more money now because it's out of pocket?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Not everyone is able to afford the services because they are, cash, and I don't accept insurance. But from a child development standpoint, I sort of look at it like this. If other people in town may take 6 to 12 months to see your child, if your child is 1, for example, that's their whole life essentially. And early years are so critical in terms of child development. It's kind of how can you afford not to? If you can do something that can really change the trajectory of your child's development, I don't know how you can put a dollar sign on that.
That's true.
And so it's kind of like how can you afford not to help them reach their greatest developmental potential? What is it going to do to their future earning potential and that kinds of things if you don't kind of do everything you can while they're little to really get those appropriate supports in place early on.
That's true. There was a Forbes article, and I have a couple of links you have to check out on Spear TV.
Okay.
But there was a Forbes article, and basically this writer had wrote that concierge medicine saved his life in the sense that he had been going to the doctor for these vague symptoms, fatigue and things like that, and not until he saw a physician that sat down and spent the time with him were they able to hone in on what it was, and literally his quality life changed everything.
I believe it because in regular clinical setting, you just don't have much time. You may have 7 to 10 minutes to see a patient, but if someone's complicated like the person you're describing, that's just not enough time to tease through and really figure out what's going on. So sometimes it really does just take more time to figure out and to support patients adequately.
That's true.
Yeah.
True. So what about the insurance companies? Like for me, like they don't understand, because for me, I even have issues as a pathologist.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go into detail a little bit more about the insurance companies and what the roadblock is, but this portion of the show is sponsored by the Sphere executive team. We're looking for exclusive content that you can't find anywhere else. Please look no further than our Sphere exclusives found only on Patreon. Yes, we have got behind-the-scenes shots happening daily at the Sphere podcast studios. Each show on the podcast curates episodes that are only delivered to Patreon subscribers. Plus, we deliver the show live from start to finish in our Discord server that's exclusive to the Patreon family. So sign up today, The Sphere, at www.thesphere.tv/Patreon. And join for $2, $5, or $8 at a tier and get access to all the exclusive content we offer at The Sphere. Pretty cool stuff. It's pretty new, and it's actually interesting because they also get an additional exclusive that from even our podcast that you may not see on Facebook Live or just going to the Sphere TV.
Oh,
so yeah,
cool.
So we have a little additional stuff that we put just for the Patreon subscribers.
Good.
But insurance companies.
Yeah.
So there has been a pushback or a decline in reimbursement for a lot of things even we do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Imagine it being cut by 20, 30, 40%.
Yeah.
So I do think, and I have saw that for a lot of concierge medicine physicians, that some of it was preempted from this fight with insurance companies.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's certainly what drove me to the model, because doing developmental and behavioral pediatrics, the minimum that a visit takes is going to be 2 hours. Sometimes it takes 3 for one visit. And if you can imagine, if you're getting paid per patient, you can't just hurry and see more patients. That's what physicians are being driven to do. And
Excuse me.
And within this model, for my discipline, you're just not able to do that, and still provide the amount of care, the level of care that the kids need.
That's true.
Yeah, so insurance reimbursement is not good at all.
You have to wait a long time.
Yes.
And then even what you ask for, you probably don't get reimbursed for all that.
You don't. My experience has been you don't necessarily get reimbursed for the work that you do. It's kind of like, oh, that's not covered or this is not covered. But as a physician, as an expert in your field, what your patient needs. And so for an insurance company to say, well...
Not physician, no medical background.
Yeah. And then when you have these peer-to-peer debates, it's really not your peer. Yeah. I may be talking to an adult cardiologist. They're not a pediatrician. They don't do so they're really not my peer in that sense. And so it's hard. And so I just don't do it. I hate that everyone can't access me, but it's just what it has to be for now.
Yeah. And I do have a friend who is in the clinic, family medicine, and the time, it's like, okay, I have this, she wants to sit there and spend all this time with her patient, talking to her patient, but in the clinic she's in, they're like, okay, your numbers are low. Not the quality of care, but your numbers are low. Hurry up, get it done. And if you really have pressed for time, you can't do a thorough evaluation of a patient.
You can't.
In a short amount of time.
And then if you miss something big, like the person you talked about, then you can worry about losing your medical license and other things if you miss something. But how can you not eventually miss something important if you're rushed in that way? You know, it's kind of scary to think about.
Very true. So what would you say are the negatives to concierge medicine?
Yeah.
Drawback at all?
I think the number one drawback for patients could definitely be the cost. It's just not in everyone's budget. And I hate that because everyone wants what's best for their children. Everyone wants their children to have what they need. And so that's a huge barrier for some families. And I think the same thing is true for a physician. Until your practice is really up and going, you don't have a set salary like you would at a hospital or a big, clinic system. And so until you have, enough patients coming through, your salary is not, necessarily set or at the level that you're used to in a bigger setting, for example. So I think the financial side can be downsides for both patients and physicians, actually.
That's true.
Yeah.
Very, very, very true. And so now, what do you see as the future for your practice?
Yeah. So I really, when you think about a business, you think about who your customers actually are. And, I spend a lot of time talking with pediatricians, but really, I want to get out there with parents more. They are truly, I don't want to say my customers, but those are the folks that I serve, right? Because I take care of kids, and so that means you take care of parents. So I really would like to be more involved in the community and really reaching out to parents on a broader scale. It doesn't have to be just a one-on-one. I would love if a group of parents wanted to talk about, I don't know, signs of autism or potty training or whatever, and then you can get people who may not necessarily be able to see you one-on-one in a group setting and pay a lower price and still get access to you and get their questions answered. So that's definitely something that I'm looking into doing, and I think the interest is there and I think the need is there. Just ready to go to the next step with that.
That is definitely good. And the home visit. So not a lot of concierge physicians do the home visits.
Yeah.
So we've got to talk about the home visits. If you want a doctor to come to your house, you're going to have to subscribe to the Sphere.
That's right.
So Facebook Live, this is the end of our show. I want to thank you guys for tuning in, but you've got to subscribe to the rest of the show. Please subscribe to our show on all the major platforms, including iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and anywhere else podcasts are found. Please review all of this content and help us build better content for you. Share the entire show with your family and friends, and right from the Sphere Podcast Network page. And last but not least, please support our mission to bring enriched and inspiring content each and every week. You can do a one-time donation or get exclusive content almost daily with our Patreon tier. Please check that out at www.thesphere.tv/Patreon. And we're going to just do a couple more minutes of Facebook Live when we talk about the home visits, which is kind of interesting because, when you watch the shows back in the day, back in the 80s, 70s.
They come out their doctor bag.
Come out with a doctor bag. And they come to the house, when you got your mild fever, 100.0. So it's similar to that, right? It's basically you're on call 24/7 for these home visits, or how does it work?
Yeah, well, not usually, because usually they're really not emergencies like that. People sometimes will reach out via email or text, and most things are fine to wait till morning, because in developmental pediatrics, there really are no emergencies in that way. And so, but yes, I'm accessible to patients when they need me. Yeah, but I haven't gone in the middle of the night. It's usually during the day.
So when you do the home visits, you bring everything that you need, and they're just at home ready for the visit. It's probably easier, right?
It's easier for the parent, for sure. I'm like, have your child's favorite snacks around and their favorite toys. It's great. The kids, I haven't had nearly as many meltdowns doing home visits as I had in the clinics.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, if you compare it, how would you describe the interaction that you have with the kids?
It's better, and I really think that I can get a truer sense of what the child's behavior is like because you can take the white coat fear out. You can take the fear of them getting a shot or being scared of the doctor out, because they're just playing. I'm on the floor with them with blocks and balls and bubbles, and we're having a good time. Absolutely. It's a good time. I think the kids really tolerate it a lot better.
Oh, definitely. It's definitely better. And then in the future, do you hope to do more home visits?
I do. I hope to do more home visits, and I hope to also do parent coaching and teaching that way too, so that more people can have access to me and my offerings at a lower price point.
Yeah. And, I was reading too, and they say it kind of actually averages out. Because when you think about paying the premiums, paying all the fees that you do have to pay to go, and then you get there, or you wait, having a doctor that's spending time with you and diagnoses you earlier on is cutting out that extra time. having a doctor that gives you the correct care, and the amount of time is also saving time.
I think so.
And money. So it kind of can average out.
I think you're selling it. I think you're right.
I'm trying to sell it because, you know, I want to have a home doctor. I don't want to have to wait.
Yes. I think it can be really beneficial to all parties involved. I really do.
All right. Well, this concludes our Facebook Live. And we are going to make sure, please chime in with questions. Please IM me if you have any questions about Facebook Live. Give me any feedback that you have. Please do.
And I'd love to tell y'all how to reach me. Yeah,
please.
Is that okay? So y'all, I'm Dr. Eboni. That's Dreboni, not Y. I'm your board certified developmental and behavioral pediatrician. You can reach me on social media platforms, including Instagram and Facebook at Dr. Eboni Peds. That's Dreboni, not Y, PEDS. I really look forward to hearing from you.
And please tell them about the book, because I was looking at this wonderful book. She's also written a book in her free time.
Yes.
So what is the book called?
Yes, it's called The 7 Practices of Exceptional Parents.
Oh, okay.
And
I need to get there.
Yes, oh my goodness, me too. Me too. And it was so interesting because
Could you give us 3 of them?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. So the first one is to be confident.
Okay.
I want you to be confident that you know your child better than anyone else. I want you to be confident that you are the expert on your child.
All right.
Number 2 is I want you to understand your child. That means understand what they like, what their strengths, what their challenges are, what calms them, what makes them anxious. Really know everything about them. And the third one I'll talk about is to accept your child. Those things that are easy to accept and those things that are not easy to accept, but you got to accept your whole child. So when you do those things, you're on your path to being an exceptional parent.
Those are pretty good, because when you think about it, any age of the spectrum, you can use those tips.
Absolutely. That works for newborns. It works for teens.
Yeah. I'm in the teen stage right now. Do you know if there's pediatricians that are also doing the home visits for older
kids? I don't know.
Because that would be nice.
Yes, I'm sure
they would use it. Them is a different issue. Them is getting them out of the house and being able to sit without complaining during a visit.
Now, you know, teens are going to be teens. I don't know if we can do that part, but they're going to complain a little bit.
Exactly.
But you know, some parents have asked me about that because, like you said, it's hard to get the scheduling together with their extracurricular activities and all the demands they have at school. But I think that's definitely another audience or group of people who also could benefit from home visits, for sure.
Definitely. And I think the older age too, so we talk about geriatrics, or going to basically almost going to the nursing home or something.
Absolutely. And then you start to think about mobility issues and transportation issues. How great is it for them to just be able to have you in their home?
To get, think about the money spent.
I know for people who can't drive, they need a driver, they need, you know, all this stuff. So I think any age group could benefit from it.
Any age group, any specialty, because they're really saying it's more of a generalist population, but I'm thinking, okay, post-surgical.
Yep.
Why get them up and out?
Yep, I agree. Check their wounds and make sure they're getting around enough. I really think the model could fit any specialty if there's a desire on both ends, on the physician's end and on the patient end.
That's true. But then another drawback that I forgot to mention earlier was about dealing with specialists and good doctors. They're saying what's happening is that a lot of these good physicians that patients had are leaving and adapting to this model, and now they don't have them anymore as their doctors.
Oh, okay. When they leave and do a new model.
They leave and they go into concierge medicine, and now they don't accept their insurance. Some of these patients that really confided in these doctors and spent these years with them, now they're losing the good doctors.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, you know, and just like we were kind of mentioning before, it's kind of like, what is the cost? What does it mean to you? Or is it something that you're able to budget? Because sometimes the deductible and the other things that come along with insurance, it might balance out in the end, if you really look at the numbers and just see, you know, what it all looks like.
Right. And then there are those things like care credit. Do you accept that? The care credit? Not even the care credit.
I'm not familiar with care credit.
So care credit I saw because there was a couple, endodontists have adopted this method a long time ago. They do not accept, some of these endodontists do not accept insurance.
Okay.
So when you go there, they're like either cash or you can get care credit.
Okay.
So I believe
Tell
it's
us about
basically,
care credit.
Care credit is like a medical card for health.
Okay.
Basically, you only can make purchases for health if you're going to the dentist or something
Oh,
like
is it
that.
like flexible spending account? Is it like FSA
It's like a credit
funds?
card.
Okay.
But you pay the doctor,
Uh-huh.
and then you make for a while, I think maybe almost low to none percentage rate. There's a low fee.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that.
And it allows a lot of people that wouldn't have been able to go to a certain doctor or something use this care credit.
Okay, I'm going to have to look into that. I'm not familiar with that.
Oh,
that
you
might be.
haven't really?
No.
Yeah, a lot of the endodontists where I live, some of them they don't
do insurance and stuff.
Do insurance stuff. And they're very happy that way. They still get a lot. They have excellent, probably some of the best ones I've met. And they don't accept insurance, but they. Yeah. All right. We are going to do another ad. This portion of the show is sponsored by Body by Royce. Are you looking for an experienced professional to help you maintain or even jumpstart your healthy lifestyle that you've been seeking? Well, look no further and set up your free consultation with Royce Thomas. She is the owner of Body by Royce. His precision, instruction, and motivation is what you need to reach your fitness goals. He will assist you with healthy, all-natural training as well as dietary plans. Whether you need personal, group, corporate, or sports elite training, his expertise will definitely get you back on the right track to a healthy lifestyle. Book your consultation today at 832-332-2407 or send an email to bodybyroyce@gmail.com. So that's it.
All right.
So I want to move on to developmental peds. And the reason why is because it's so interesting to me also and personally as a mother, as a child who does have some developmental issues, is what would you say developmental medicine or developmental peds, what would you kind of describe what exactly you do?
Okay, that's a good question. You know, I meet so many people who've not ever heard of a developmental pediatrician. And so, you know, kind of just on a big scale, development, I think of it as the basic science of pediatrics. Like, it's just the building blocks of how a child behaves, how a child interacts with the world. And so, as opposed to focusing on general health, I really focus on all things development. And you know, you hear people talk a lot about cognitive skills or speech skills and things like that, but they're not really isolated like that. They really all work together. You know, they all interact with each other and they all make up, you know, the overall development of a child. And so I really kind of tease that out and understand how that child is developing, kind of in comparison to themselves as well as to other similarly aged peers.
Okay.
Yeah, and the important thing I always tell parents to remember is that every child is unique. You know, because they'll say, oh, my other child did this.
Try to compare.
And you can't, even within families, kids are just themselves and they're different than any other child on the planet, you know.
That's true. I do try to compare. So you go to the yearly visit, as many of us do, and you know you've got that little thing, and they ask you to check off. Are they sitting up at 6 months? Are they? How many words? Are they saying this many words? Are they able to do a cartwheel?
Yeah.
And they don't quite fit all those checks. Is that at the time that they're suggested then to come to a developmental pediatrician?
That's a good question, and so it really depends on what the concern is, like how concerned the parent is, as well as how concerned their pediatrician is. Because sometimes you don't check all those boxes and you go back and say, well, what about this, this, and this? And they're like, oh, yeah, they can do that. Because sometimes the parents may not understand the question fully, or they may have never tried to get the child to do the task, and then they do it there in the office. And the approach can be different. Some pediatricians will say, well, let's wait to the next visit and see if you're still concerned. Sometimes it's a large concern is causing a great deal of angst for the family, and then that may prompt them, you know, to lean towards getting an assessment sooner. It really is a lot of variables at play when you make the decision to move forward with getting an assessment versus waiting and see how things kind of level out. And then it's just reassurance, okay? Because as moms, I think we are born to worry about our children, and many times the pediatrician can say, oh, that's fine, everything's fine, it's within the expected range or whatever. And so it just depends. It varies on a case-by-case basis for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Because some children are not walking.
Absolutely.
So what are the main ones that you see or that you evaluate, or maybe
I tell you that the top. Okay, so I'll tell you in general. I think just what comes to general pediatricians is not walking, because everybody thinks by their first birthday they should be walking for the pictures and all that stuff.
Okay, what about 15 months?
Okay, so usually most kids will walk between 9 and 15 months.
What about 17 months?
At 17 months, I say the vast majority of kids are walking, and we need to really do a thorough neurological exam. Like, do they have low muscle tone? Are their reflexes okay? I think that warrants a good neurological exam, and your pediatrician can do that.
Okay.
And I think that no milestone should be taken in isolation. Is the kiddo talking up a storm and got friends and blowing kisses and pointing at body parts and everything? I think you have to look at the whole child. Because I can use my child as an example. My husband may not like that, but I was like, why is this boy not walking? And I had to go to a conference for 2 days, and he started walking with my mom, and she was like, you hold him too much. He can walk the whole time. And so, it just really depends, right? And so I just think it really depends, and you have to just look at the whole child. It's hard to just pick one little thing out and just focus on that. But definitely parents call me most often when they're worried about autism. We hear a lot about autism spectrum disorders in the media.
Yeah.
So that's probably the number one thing parents call me about. The next thing is going to be that they're worried that their child isn't making enough words or talking enough. The next thing is probably just global developmental delay. They just think they're a little bit slower than their siblings were, and they're worried that they might not catch up, and so that's probably the next most common thing. And then there's temper tantrums.
Oh,
and then there's potty troubles.
They're worried about temper tantrums?
They're like, is it too many? Are these too long? It seems like nothing major happened, and they're just falling all out, and is this too much? And so it kind of gets to, is this what we expect for the child's age, or is this outside of the realm of what's acceptable?
Okay.
Yeah, and so those are the top things that parents call me about.
I see. So let's talk a little bit about the autism, because to me that, we'll digress and forget about the fact that they're, trying to point that with the vaccinations, because that's been debunked. But really, when you're
we
dealing
keep
with
hearing about it, but I don't know why.
When you're dealing with the autism or the child, what are some of the signs that you look for?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think definitely kind of the 3 areas that are challenging for children who are on the autism spectrum include social skills, speech skills, and then kind of rigid behaviors and patterns of behavior. And so when I talk about social skills, parents talk a lot about eye contact. That's something babies can do from the time they're born. You give their first feeding and they're just looking at you and you're looking at them. But often parents can look back on that and say, even from when they were little bitty, they just didn't make eye contact the way I thought that they should. And then as they get older, you'd expect that they would be interested in peers. When they're 18 or 24 months, are they looking at other babies? Do they want to wave at them and blow them kisses and things like that? And then in terms of the language development, either it can be delayed or it can be very atypical. Like parents will describe that the child doesn't use any words spontaneously, but they might repeat the carpet cleaning commercial, for example. So it's a really different way to use language, for example. Okay. And then lastly, rigid behaviors. A lot of parents will describe flapping or spinning or lining up their toys just so, and getting mad if you take one out. And so just those types of differences are the things that parents describe.
Okay.
When they're worried about
autism. We'll talk about that a little bit in depth, because I have a couple more questions.
Okay.
But this portion of the show is sponsored by Houston Housewives of Finance.
Okay.
We're a new group. So did you know that only 4 states in the U.S. offer financial education? Well, I don't even think that medical school really does, right?
No, they don't.
33% don't pay their bills on time. 39% of Americans carry credit card debt from month to month, and 39% of adults say they don't have enough savings.
I believe
Don't
it.
don't become one of these statistics. Let the Houston Housewives of Finance advise you on increasing your cash flow and becoming your money manager by scheduling your complimentary personal financial strategy meeting. Contact us at 1-844-700-4463. That's 1-844-700-4463. Or email us at info@houstonhousewivesoffinance.com. Ask how you can participate in a complimentary financial literacy workshop near you. Houston Housewives of Finance are the new faces of the new age of financial services.
All right, that's a much needed service.
I know, even the children.
Yes, financial literacy for little ones is huge.
They need that. My son needs that. Not understanding the concept.
Mommy's got it. That's the way he looks at it.
Children. So the autism is very interesting to me because there is a spectrum, right? There's the
Absolutely.
Asperger's. There's like a spectrum of the different ones. What are some of the most difficult cases? Because to me, it seems like it's hard than trying to put it. Because I'm sure not everybody fits this cookie cutter description
That's
of these
absolutely
three
right.
aspects you see of.
That's absolutely right, because I think the hardest thing about it is that the diagnostic criteria has changed over time. So when you think about prevalence and things like that, what does it really mean if the diagnostic criteria have changed over the years? But the hardest cases are those that are more subtle. We all have friends or relatives who just are a little bit quirky, right? Everybody is themselves and everybody's a little bit different. So kind of teasing out what makes someone different enough that you need to classify them as something is a big question. But the way I look at it is, do those differences cause impairment in their life? Like, does it make them unable to function in their classroom? Does it make them unable to keep a job, when they're an adult? So it's not really about what quirks you have, it's about your ability to function in your life, within your family and within your community. It's kind of the way I look at it.
So then you could say that these home visits are great because you're putting them in their environment, but at the same time then you're not able to see them at an office and see how they really function. Because they could probably act more normal since they're in their environment.
Well, that's true, but if you think about it, the doctor's office is not an environment that they need to function in because they're not usually there, and if parents need for me to talk with their teachers, visit their schools, I'm able to do that too, because we want kids to be able to function in their real life, and what that means for kids is in the classroom, in the at the playground, and things like that.
That's true. So have you ever had, I'm sure the general pediatrician probably does some of these referrals. What about teachers? Are you ever seeing teachers, parents coming in saying the teacher, says that?
Yeah, absolutely. Usually the way it works is teachers will tell the parent, and then the parent will tell the pediatrician, and then the pediatrician refers, because often when teachers are concerned, it might be a question of their attention span. Are they, are their academics, at the levels, there's some reason why they're struggling academically. Excuse me. And so, the referrals mostly come from parents and pediatricians. Excuse me.
It makes sense. Yeah, because in my own case, delays, I saw the little bit of delays of walking and talking, but the pediatrician was like, she'll be fine. And then it wasn't until school, when really trying to put it all together, that they noticed, she might need to get tested. So we had the assessment. We had it twice, actually. We had the school assessment, but it was the actual assessment over at the medical center that actually helps
you
more
put
in
things
depth.
together.
Yes, put everything together. And she had an MRI, and they found out exactly what was going on with her.
I think that's really interesting, because earlier you asked what makes some cases tougher to call, and it's the more subtle cases, because when a child is very globally delayed, a year or two delayed, for example, if you're 4 and you're really thinking more like a 2-year-old, that's a big difference. But when it's something that's more subtle, just kind of the way you figure out math problems or something like that, that takes longer to tease out. It's not until grade school, or something. And it's not that anyone didn't miss it. It's just that the difference wasn't significant enough to catch. You know, it's kind of like you can't really diagnose dyslexia in a preschooler. You know what I mean? It's not until they're expected to do a certain level of work can you notice that there's a difference, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think the more subtle the difference, the more difficult it is to really discern and to pick it up.
That's true. Yeah. Well, home visits.
Yes.
Developmental medicine.
Yes.
And being able to have a paradigm that works better for patients and the physicians where I talk today. And like, I'm excited because I think more people are going to be able to understand. I don't think a lot of people know what concierge medicine is.
I think you're right.
Or developmental peds, and being able to, because there are a lot of parents that are going through these issues, and to be able to have someone to come out and work with them at their home would be wonderful.
Yeah.
So Dr. Eboni Peds is who you need to check out. Please show her bio. Dr. Eboni Peds, what is your web address again?
Yes, my website is drebonipeds.com. That's DREBONIPEDS.com.
Awesome. And don't forget the book, because we only learned about 4 of the top 7.
That's right. So to hear about the other 3.
Read those. I have to read those so I can check up on my parenting.
Absolutely. I think your parenting's superb.
So please come back. This is The Docs. I am Dr. Keisha. Please check me out on Facebook, Dance Health Fitness LLC, and on Instagram at KYDMD_health. Always a pleasure. Please come back and please subscribe to The Sphere on Patreon as well. And please give us feedback so we can make sure we have more cool shows like this.
Yes.
All right. Take care. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Facebook Live seemed like it was forever. That's why Facebook Live was 3